Our story began with Colton Choi from Unjang Middle School, boasting about how powerful his punches are, and his classmates were impressed with what he said. He then asks them if they have any cigarettes, and they ask him to come with them to smoke. In the front of the classroom, Eugene Gale, who is labeled as a loser, ponders how he can be so unlucky. He is placed in a classroom full of delinquents and wonders if his future school life will be miserable. He looked all over the room silently and slowly. He already knew that the social hierarchy is already in place in this classroom. He know that there are 4 levels of hierarchy. This are slave, commoner, nobleman and king. In the past, he spent his whole middle school as a slave to the bullies. He doesn't want that to happen again, so he makes sure to be as low-key as possible. In the back seat, Colton Choi suddenly spat at the person in front of him, and it landed in his hair. The person who got spat on felt the saliva in his back of his head, and he slowly looked at where the spat sound come from. His heart is beating so fast, and his sweat is raining down. Colton Choi commanded that Zealot is supposed to melt away when he got spat on by him. Colton Choi then continues to spit on him and Zealot curse at his misfortune. He doesn't want to fight, so he just endures it and swears that he will get him back one day. Eugene Gale looked at Zealot being bullied and pity him, but he felt relieved that he wasn't the one being bullied. Colton Choi, who is at the back of the seat, look all over the classroom. He licks his lips like he was hunting a prey. Eugene Gale, who is silently watching Colton Choi, met his eyes with him. His body felt goosebumps and panics. But Eugene Gale is wrong. Colton Choi and his gangs were looking at his seatmate. They were amazed by the loser's looks and want to force him to wear a dress for them to see. They were amazed by how long his lashes were. Apparently his name is Gray Yun, and they wonder if he is a girl because even his name is girlish. Colton Choi then suggested that we take a look to see if Gray Yun is really a boy or a girl by checking what is under those pants. He stood up dominant and walked over to Gray Yun while giggling. He brought his head closer slowly and suddenly he grabbed Gray Yun's clothes and squeezed the middle of his pants. He realized that Gray Yun was a boy and tell it to his gangs, and he felt that Gray Yun is panicking too. Gray Yun was surprised when he felt the hand holding his private part as Colton Choi continued to talk to his gangs. And while Colton Choi was laughing, he didn't notice that Gray Yun suddenly raised his elbow. Colton Choi got elbow strike in the face by Gray Yun. It was too fast and Colton Choi couldn't dodge Gray Yun's elbow strike and it landed on Colton Choi's throat. The incident happened quickly and the two got separated. Colton Choi grabbed his throat and felt the agonizing pain he got from Gray Yun's elbow strike. The whole classroom saw this and was surprised and wondering what Gray Yun was thinking and what he did to Colton Choi, who is a strong bully. And after Colton Choi recovered from Gray Yun's elbow strike, he got angry and cursed Gray Yun and threatened him if he wanted to die. While Colton Choi was about to continue to threaten Gray Yun, he suddenly felt the tightness of his 2 hands on his back as if they were handcuffed. And suddenly Gray Yun stepped and kicked the back of Colton Choi's knee, which resulted in Colton Choi falling down and kneeling quickly. After the incident, Colton Choi threatened Gray Yun again to remove bag handcuffs from his hand while cursing. And when Gray Yun didn't remove the bag handcuffs from his hand, Colton Choi told him that he was now really angry. Gray Yun then suddenly grabbed Colton Choi's hair. And Gray Yun slapped Colton in the face very hard and Colton Choi was surprised. Colton recovered and asked him if Gray Yun was so brave that he dared to slap him. Gray Yun smacked Colton Choi in the face once again and this time Colton Choi's nose bled from the force of Gray Yun's slap. After the slap, Colton Choi's face was bruised, his eyes were crying and bloodshot, and his nose was bleeding. Colton Choi threatened Gray Yun again and told him that he would not let go of what happened today. Gray Yun slapped Colton Choi in the face again. Gray Yun looked into his eyes and told Colton Choi that he really don't understand what is happening right now. Gray Yun keeps slapping Colton Choi's face in front of the classroom. Colton Choi is quiet and thinks that he's fucked, but it was too late. The whole class heard the continuous sound of a slaps. The whole class watched silently as Colton Choi was being smacked by Gray Yun. They were all surprised by the incident and that they were amazed by Gray Yun for what he did because they had never seen such a thing in their life. He told him if he made trouble in this classroom again. And that was Gray Yun's debut fight as a freshman at Eunjang High. The news that Colton Choi lost reached Class 8. Ben Park annoys Alex Go that if he challenges Colton Choi he will be beaten. Ben Park said that Alex Go is too late and there are others who beat Colton Choi. Alex Go became curious, who is it? Ben Park didn't know, but he heard that the person who slapped and beat Colton Choi had gray hair. Alex Go didn't believe the story told by Ben Park and said it was the most boring and wackiest story he ever told him. Alex Go told Ben Park to tell his story more realistically, it felt like a medieval or something. He said that one day he will beat Colton Choi. And Ben Park told him to go to Class 5 to see if he was really lying. While Alex Go still didn't believe him, he didn't speak and follow him. Inside Class 5, Gray Yun became the center of attention and talk. They wonder how he won against Colton Choi, who is a strong bully, because he looks weak. And they didn't believe that Colton left early out of embarrassment along with his friends because of Gray Yun. They guess that Gray Yun is so weak that he cannot lift more than 110 pounds. Against Colton Choi, this is a big difference in weight class. The person who saw the incident said that it was very shocking. Gray Yun was like a demon when he slapping Colton Choi in front of the classroom. Alex Go and Ben Park heard the conversation between the three of them and Alex Go became interested. And as they listened they saw a man beside them listening too. They recognized the person named Gerard Jean from Dongua Middle School. They were amazed by his height and suspected that he went to Class 5 because he heard the gossips about the fight between Gray Yun and Colton Choi. Gerald Jean heard them talking about him and looked at them. Ben Park told Gerald that he couldn't stop his curiosity, so he came here too. And then Gerald said that Ben Park and Alex Go are inseparable. Alex Go was annoyed with Gerald's looking at him and swears at him. Gerald laughed at how quickly Alex Go got angry, and said that they two looked good together. And they didn't know that, by coincidence or destiny, these four of us would come together and, in the future, become legends of Eunjang High. But that story is for the future. The classes is over and the students are now leaving. While Gray Yun was going home, he felt that trouble was coming. He continues to walk towards the bridge. He knew that his hunches were rarely wrong. He met three people who were smoking and looking at him. One of the three people is Colton Choi. He called Gray Yun angrily and spat. His friends laugh when they see how weak Gray Yun is and ask Colton Choi how he lost to someone like him. Colton Choi said to them that he was defeated because Gray Yun used underhanded tactics. His friends were laughing while he was explaining. Gray Yun suddenly spoke, and asked them, underhanded? He asked them if his ways were underhanded. He said that his body is weak, small, and he cannot fight on equal grounds to begin with. And he is also outnumbered and outclassed by the disgusting people like them.